Greetings and welcome to Old Drunken Discography, where old friends, fans come together to BS, argue, occasionally agree, and discuss a musical artist. I'm your host, Jason. That's me. I'm your host, Jason. Just in case people forget that I introduced myself. With me is Tim.
Yabba gabba hey.
And Bill.
Jason.
And our special guest, new to the show. Do we call you Denver? We'll go with Denver.
Yes, sir. Howdy.
And today we're talking Green Day. This is my pick. Last week, Tim picked International Noise Conspiracy. Next week, Bill picked Beastie Boys because we made him pick it because we wanted to listen to something good for once. So,
did you make me pick it though?
Yes. I said, you know what you're doing,
right.
Beastie Boys.
It was on his list. We just moved
It was
to
on my
the top.
list. Yeah.
It's one of those. It's one of those bands you got to get to. It's the fucking Beastie
yeah.
Boys.
You haven't heard that? Let's go.
So, this is Green Day. I want to give a quick shout out to Nobody Asked My Opinion. I'll leave a link in their to their website down below because he's currently ranking the Green Day records. And I highly disagree with him, but whatever.
We'll see if somebody on the panel does agree with him.
Yes. No, I don't think you will. But unlike him, we are not doing solo projects like The Long Shot, or we're not doing any, side projects like Foxborough Hot Tubs. We're not ranking Pinhead Gunpowder. We're not ranking this band that's not Green Day called The Network. We're not doing them.
That they feuded with even at one point. Trying to drum up some interest for which band.
That's not Green Day. It's not Green Day. And we're not doing any unofficial bootlegs. So, just the studio albums with a couple of honorable mentions along the way. First off, brief history / relationship with the band. Bill, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I can start. So, Green Day, obviously, those of you that are new, I was born in 98. And on the bus going to school, to say I hadn't heard Boulevard of Broken Dreams a couple times would be an understatement. So I definitely got on about the American Idiot train. Knew about some of the stuff going forward, a little bit on 21st Century, and then going backwards, I knew some about Dookie and Nimrod. Really, when I started covering the show, obviously, Saviors was one of the albums we reviewed that came out last year. Additionally, Dookie, that was the Green Day vinyl that I actually bought, just because that's what was available at the time. That I was like, oh yeah, I'll buy that one. That being said, definitely have, I draw a lot of parallels with Green Day with another band that we will get into once we discuss a couple of these albums, and it's uncanny to see the resemblance between the two of them.
All right, Tim, what about you?
New discography for me. I've never heard of this band before, and so this was interesting to get into. I hear they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, we talked about that, remember?
No, I mean, like everybody else my age, I got on the Dookie train, and I've been aware of them ever since.
Yeah, they inducted the Ramones.
They did, yeah. Quite well.
God. About damn time.
It's still a shame they didn't induct CJ, though. Like, come on.
Yeah. Fuck the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Same for me. Dookie, 94, went back, got Kerplunk, 39 Smooth. Been on the train ever since. So I know this discography very well. What about you, Denver?
So I hopped on the Green Day train back in 2009. I was 12 or 13 years old at the time. I'm born in 98. My brother was out of town for college, and he came back home just for over the winter break. No, it wasn't over winter break. It was over summer break, because 21st Century Breakdown came out in May of that year. And with him, he brought an MP3 player for me, and on it was 2 records, and it was 21st Century Breakdown and Meteora from Linkin Park. And I gravitated to those records really, really fast. And immediately I was like, I'm going to love these bands for the rest of my life. I listened to those records every single day for probably about 6 months. Um, and when my brother figured out, like, oh shit, you really like this band, Green Day, uh, check out this record. And then the next record he gave me was Dookie. Um, and then it was off to the races. I went down the rabbit hole of just going in really deep into the discography really young. Um, and then I eventually wanted to learn how to play guitar because I was just like, man, fucking Billy Joe's just such a fucking badass. I want to be like that when I grow up, right? So I learned how to play guitar, and I started a band right around when Revolution Radio came out. And I myself and my band go to the Revolution Radio show in 2017 when they played in Austin. That's where I'm from, Austin, Texas. And
Boston weird.
yes, sir, yes, sir. And Billy Joe actually pulled me up on stage to sing Longview that show. Um,
Nice.
yeah, it was fucking amazing. Um, and yeah, I've seen them what 6 or 7 times since. Um,
Cool,
and
cool.
yeah, love the band, man. Fucking love them. So yeah.
All right. Well, let's just start from the beginning. Bill,
Good place to start.
You want to go first, Bill?
Yeah, I can go first. So this one, I mean, I guess I'll spoil it right off the start. And Jason and I have gone back and forth a number of times debating stuff like this. It's uncanny the relationship between Green Day and The Offspring at the end of the day.
Oh yeah.
They both start at like the same sound. Like I can hear The Offspring's debut album a lot. And I'm not saying that Green Day ripped off The Offspring. Like you could tell there's a lot of other influences going on here.
They have the same
I mean,
influences, for sure.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And like you can hear it all playing well
I
into
mean,
this.
go back and watch our Ramones videos. Who
Yeah.
isn't ripping them off?
But
At
like,
this point, it's like
I mean,
Descendants, too.
So
Yeah,
were the
exactly.
Offspring
Yeah.
also
Misfits
from
and
the
the
East
Dead
Bay?
Kennedys and the Go Go's and
yeah. Is it, and by no means by saying ripping off is a bad way either. Like, I mean, I feel like both bands, Offspring and Green Day, carried on the song well. I'm gonna say sound wise, his first album sounded a little raw, would be the words I would use. Not rough, but it was very raw.
Hmm.
And I think that played into it. It had benefited them a lot going through these ones. Notably, I would think Disappearing Boy as well as 16 really emphasized those sounds. And I think helped carry through that sound of the rest of the album. Uh, as for like a low point in the album, I wouldn't say a low point just because a lot of it flowed well with each other. Much the same as Offspring's inaugural album did. It all flowed together exceptionally well. There was nothing that stood out in a bad way. Nothing that like really emphasized the punch good though either. It was just that raw sound that I really felt helped bring this initial album together. Uh and you could tell from this album, the aspects of the Ramones and, the Beatles and other bands that they were going to try and carry through with them through the rest of the discography. And I will dare say perfect after this album. Um,
Are we breaking your first album bias streak? You're on a 2-band streak at the moment.
hey, you're guessing first, so you get to figure that out once you guessed. I ain't saying shit.
Damn, I tried. I tried.
Tried so hard, man.
It got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter.
There we go.
And
That's
it won't by the time we
right
get to the
there.
end of this. It won't matter.
I mean, going in, you would have guessed, Jason, this wouldn't have been my number one album, I'm guessing, anyways, which I don't think that's a spoiler by anyone's standard. That being said, I feel like this was still an exceptional debut album. There's a lot of good things they had going on. I really liked, again, just like the raw guitar sound coming through a lot. And even the drums, I feel like really helped carry through. And then Billy Joe Armstrong's voice, obviously, is just his voice, singing out in that more, Ramones core sound, which lost its allure in later, not lost its allure, but it's lost its touch in later albums. That's the right word I want to use. Like this
Its potency, perhaps.
potency, there we go. Thank you, Tim. That is actually
That's why
that,
I'm
but
here.
like that, you nailed it on the head. That's exact. Like
Yeah.
the sound was so raw and just so. It sound. I mean, going back to remote, it sounded like a bunch of guys just sitting in the garage and like, all right, fuck it, let's see what we can make. And they made this album,
Yeah,
and
they
it's
they
good.
recorded it in like 22 hours.
Yeah.
Exactly, like I said, like that, and that's 10 tracks. What was it? 33 minutes, if that. Like it was a.
Which is
This was a
pretty
quick
long
album.
for a punk album.
And they did it live too.
Well,
Oh
then
yeah, of
that.
course. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll say yeah, absolutely. We'll say Tim, you nailed it with saying long for a punk album, but at the same time, I mean, you could tell with this one they weren't trying to just be punk. It's not
True.
like
True.
you hear a lot of like the Beatles, maybe even little Who influences going on here. Again, no negative at all with that whatsoever. But I mean, Beatles. Shit, what was the shortest album? Like
Well, and I think
43
that's
minutes. Like,
indicative of just the underground scene in general in America in 1988 through 90, up until the release of Nevermind. You look at like Loud Love, you look at Bleach, you look at, you know, um, the Chili Peppers right before they broke, and Faith No More right before they broke, and like Jane's Addiction is around at this time. But then you also got like the glam bands are still big. Um,
right before they
so
die.
punk rock's just in a weird place in 1990, but they are starting to embrace the 70s pop that all those kids grew up with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about like even what Ramones was doing in the late '80s and '90s
Mm-hmm.
compared to what they started as. I mean, go back and watch our review of that discography. By no means was it bad, but it was like okay, even they were starting to try and get. Well, they were always trying to get on the radio. Let's be honest, but they wanted to do it with a new
But
sound,
they also
which
kind of gave up at some point and realized who
oh
they
yeah,
were. Yeah.
yep.
But
Because
this
it's like
is
oh we create.
1990s like East Bay Lookout
Yeah,
Records.
yeah.
I mean, in the liner
Lo-fi,
notes, they think Operation Ivy. They think fucking Blatz and Filth.
great band.
Sam I Am. Like, all these bands that don't really sound like Green Day. Green Day kind of stood out. They,
Yeah.
they had more pop than
Green Day was trying to get
fucking
on the
Filth.
radio starting in 1990. Yeah,
No, he was just writing sweet
I'd
love
concur with
songs.
that.
Sweet love songs. Like, this album oozes teenage love. Like, all the way through.
Yeah,
Minus the one song that the drummer wrote, but it still kind of
well,
fits the theme.
Which this is the
yeah.
one album without Trey Cool.
Yeah, John's the
Let's say
drummer on this one.
And you can
Yeah.
feel it. You
Yeah.
can feel that it's not Trey.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I fucking love this record. It was produced by Andy, who goes on to produce like. But he gets better he gets better as a producer later on. Like he does Weasel's "My Brain Hurts," the Wyona Riders, great fucking band. The opening lines of this discography is, "Hey there, looking at me, tell me what do you see, but you quickly turn your head away." It sums up the whole fucking album. It's just it's about girls.
I forgot how many bangers are on this record. Like At the Library is fantastic. Going to Pasalacqua. Uh, what is it? I Was There. But still, like, besides the point, like, still, there's just so many excellent singles on that album. And, like, being 16 years old in 1990, being around all the punk bands that they were, and they were able to literally blend that with, like what Tim said, 1970s pop music, and just blend that together. No one at that time has ever really heard that. Sure, the Ramones were doing shit, but I mean, like, to me, I
But I mean,
think
yeah, I mean,
it
hindsight's
was,
great, and we can look back at 1990 and realize that there
yeah,
were a million bands all doing this exact same thing at the same time, regardless of location and whatever scene they were in. You know, Babes in Toyland are up in Minneapolis, and Alice in Chains are figuring out their stuff in
Yeah, but
Seattle.
Babes in Toyland is not writing like fucking love pop punk songs, like.
I mean, I would disagree with that.
Because
I think that's exactly
I'd
what
even
they're
argue
writing.
against the Offspring. Like I think the Offspring self-titled has a completely different vibe than 39 Smooth. It's a little more hardcore than this.
Yeah, it's a little
oh,
more
It's
SoCal.
definitely
agreed.
more hardcore, but like I wouldn't say
Like the
like
lyrical content on this record is so
what's this very mellow
16-year-old
lyric.
boy like writing about a girl, like
Yeah,
love
to put it
songs.
kindly, and respectfully, it's immature because he's 16 when he wrote all of these songs. So the first song that Billy Joe Armstrong ever wrote is on this record, and it was "Why Do You Want Him?" You know, um, so like literally every single you go through this list, and you hit it right on the head that this whole entire album is basically only love songs.
It's like a Milo Goes to College, just
Things
not
making up.
not as good as a Milo Goes to College, but it has that same vibe as a Descendants record.
Bill knows it. Yeah, no, and well, and even then, like, yeah, you can definitely hear the Descendants. You can hear the East Bay. You can hear,
Mr. T Experience is still Mr.
yeah.
T Experience took this record and made it over and over and over again throughout their entire discography.
So
I
Well,
like
and
it.
I'm sure we'll pose this question again as we get deeper into the discography. But at what point do you hit the Slayer model, where just every album's the same at this point?
See, I don't think Green Day ever hit that.
uh,
Green Day's never hit that. For better or
see,
worse, there is some variation in Green Day albums.
I mean, there's some variation, sure.
well, I mean, there's gonna be some because right, it's different years that each ones get
Yeah, it's
released. They
different
have different
rooms, it's different
influences.
No, it's not just the
amps, all that.
production. It's not just the production. There's we'll
Oh
get there.
no, well, I get what Tim's saying, and actually, I agree to an extent, and I think we'll discuss it actually even starting a little bit on the next album. And
But
I'm
yeah,
saying
no,
that as me.
exactly. And it's kind of, I mean, obviously we'll get to it and maybe people find their point. Maybe they haven't found it yet. But I think that, this is definitely a sign of things to come. Um, and yeah, at some point, maybe there's a train stop for you.
I mean, I'll say this, just going back to my comparison. I would say from a debut album perspective, I would say this album was a better debut album than The Offspring's debut album. Like, like this one's more raw, and The Offspring were more hardcore. I think the rawness helped come through a little bit more on this one.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's I mean
Yeah,
it's two
no,
different
and that's
vibes.
fair.
It's two
I think
different
that's fair.
vibes.
Yeah, it's different vibes, but no, yeah, no, I mean this album isn't bad at all. Like especially when we get to the rest of the discography. Like, yeah, for a bunch of kids throwing together, some money to do a quick recording, it sounds great. The songs are fun, they're catchy, they're played well.
We'll quickly run through the EPs because they're all scattered about.
Sure.
1,000 Hours is actually their first EP, so fucking beautiful love song again. I mean, it's more of the same. It's just EPs of the same time frame, but Dry Eyes still gives me goosebumps. Slappy, there's your Paper Lanterns. Is probably why you thought it was
Yeah,
stands test time. Like they still play that. I think they still play 409 in your coffee maker. Knowledge, that's how you do a fucking cover. It doesn't
they
sound
don't play it
anything
that way
like
live.
it doesn't sound anything like the original. We're gonna do we gotta talk about Operation Ivy at some point too. Sweet Children, it's great. You know, you got who's that on there?
Which was the original name of the band, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
What's that track for, Tim? My Generation?
Talking about my generation.
Down there at the bottom
No?
it says originally by The Who, obviously.
Yeah,
Oh,
obviously.
what it says.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go back and watch those videos.
Yeah, go watch our Who videos. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of more of the same.
So which one do you like better, Jason? Green Day or The Who? For my generation.
There's no fucking comparison, dude. There's
Yeah, I know, but which one?
There's no fucking comparison, motherfucker. Green Day. No, the fucking Who. What kind of question is that? Jesus Christ.
Well, hey, I felt that had to be asked at
I
some
remember
point.
I was listening to Slappy Hours or 1039 and my dad comes into my room, busts the door open, sounds just like fucking Tim, sounding like my dad. Comes in there and is like, This is the fucking Who. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but no, this is Green Day. But this is a fucking Who song, and shuts the door. I'm like, yeah, okay, obviously it's fucking Who. But,
Yeah. Well, and we'll certainly be bringing up the Who in this discography a lot as well.
100%.
Both song-wise and even business model-wise, you know? They took American Idiot to Broadway.
Yeah.
That was kind of a shame. That's a whole other video we could discuss, or well, live stream we could discuss about the whole Broadway integration of some albums that came out, especially in the 2000s. That was kind of messed up.
How many more were there, though?
My Chemical Romance.
They didn't do a Broadway show for My Chemical Romance.
Well, it wasn't a Broadway show, but they did a theater adaptation.
Oh, I think you're talking about. You're just referring to like the concept records, right?
Yeah, that they just ripped off the Queen. But anyway,
Night at the Opera.
Yeah, we got to do Queen too.
We do.
I'm guessing 39 Smooth is number one for everybody. Yeah.
Hashtag first album bias.
This is going to be a long discography. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe. Help us out. Leave a comment down below. All right, anybody else got anything to add? Denver, you got anything?
To 39 Smooth? No.
Nope. All right. We're going to wrap this up. Stick around. Kerplunk is next. Be safe and make good decisions.
Now you see me, now you don't ask me where I'm at.
And then you go a little woo, and then a little whoop, 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 and then it's all, you know, and then you're ready to go again.